and transfer chaos, our Swedish striker has disappeared from the Northeast. And he's not with the squad in South Korea either. We might be witnessing the most controversial training decision in recent Newcastle history. And the optics? They're absolutely brutal for any black and white heart watching this. Unfold. But before you lose your mind completely, there's a story behind this story that changes everything. Let's dive into what's really happening with Alexander Isak in Spain. What's up, Toon Army? Welcome back to NUFC Quick News, your go-to source for everything Newcastle United. The passion, the pride, and the black and white fight. I'm absolutely buzzing to break down this Alexander Isak situation because the internet is going mental right now, and I can feel your frustration through the screen. But here's the thing. Are we looking at a player engineering his way out of St. James Park, or is there actually method to this madness? Stick around because I've got exclusive context that'll change how you see this entire situation. And by the end of this video, you might be feeling very different about our Swedish sensation. Right, let's address the elephant in the room. Alexander Isak is currently training at Real Sociedad's facilities in San Sebastian, Spain, not with the Newcastle squad in South Korea, not at the Darsley Park training ground here in Newcastle. Alone in Spain with his personal team. And yeah, I get it, the optics are absolutely horrendous. But before we all start planning his farewell parade, let me give you the context that's been flying under the radar. Isak has always had his own team of specialists, physicians, sports scientists, personal trainers, people he's trusted for years. Eddie Howe has spoken about this multiple times in press conferences. This isn't some new development or red flag we've missed. What do you think about players having their own medical teams? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is becoming more common in modern football. And I'm curious where the Toon Army stands on this. Here's what's actually happening. Newcastle's entire squad, coaching staff, physios, club, doctors, literally everyone is in South Korea right now. The training ground back home? It's practically a ghost town with skeleton staff. So when Isak needs specialized treatment for his minor thigh injury, where's he supposed to get the best care? From an empty facility or from the team of experts he's worked with for years? And here's the kicker. Real Sociedad's squad isn't even there. They're away on their own preseason tour. So Isak isn't training with his old teammates, plotting some romantic return. He's literally using empty facilities to work with his team while recovering from injury. The club has allowed this as a professional courtesy, nothing more. Now I know what you're thinking. If he can fly to Spain, why couldn't he fly to Singapore and South Korea with the squad? That's actually a brilliant question, and here's where it gets interesting. Long-haul flights were specifically cited as problematic for his thigh injury. A flight to Spain? Much shorter, much less strain on his body during recovery. But let's be honest about the real issue here. This looks absolutely terrible when Liverpool rumors are swirling every single day. The timing couldn't be worse if we planned it ourselves. What's your gut feeling right now? Innocent recovery or something more suspicious? Let me know in the comments. Here's my take on the bigger picture. Maybe this circuit breaker is exactly what Isak needs right now. Think about it. He's been the center of constant transfer speculation, every move analyzed, every social media post dissected by fans and journalists. Sometimes the best thing for a player's mental health is to step away from the noise completely. And let's talk about that noise for a second. This transfer window has been absolutely brutal for Newcastle fans. We've missed out on player after player. Kuna to Manchester United, Mbolo to Manchester United, Pedro choosing Chelsea over us. It's becoming a pattern that's honestly heartbreaking to watch. The harsh reality? Top players still see Newcastle as a stepping stone rather than a destination. Whether it's geography, wages, or global perception, we're still not competing with Manchester City, Liverpool, or even Manchester United for player priorities. That's going to take time to change, and this summer has really hammered that point home. But here's where the Isak situation gets really interesting from a strategic standpoint. The longer this drags on without Liverpool making a formal bid, the more likely Isak stays at Newcastle. Why? Because we simply cannot afford to let him leave without a top-level replacement lined up first. We're in competition with Manchester United for Sesko. Sound familiar? Another player who might choose the bigger name over the project. If we can't secure that caliber of striker, do we really let Isak walk away? I don't think so, and I don't think the club thinks so either. Are you convinced we can compete for top strikers in the market right now? This is where your voice matters. Drop your predictions below. Remember, Liverpool still hasn't made a formal offer. They've got Núñez, Elliott and Gakpo. They need to move on before they can seriously pursue anyone. If they were desperate for Isak, where's the bid? Where's the concrete action beyond just unsettling our player? And speaking of unsettling, let's acknowledge how frustrating this must be for Eddie Howe right now. He's managing preseason in South Korea while his star striker is dealing with transfer speculation thousands of miles away. Those face-to-face conversations that could solve everything? They'll have to wait until the squad returns next week. But maybe that's not entirely bad news. Sometimes a cooling off period helps everyone involved. Maybe Isak comes back next week less frustrated. Maybe the club has had time to consider their options. Maybe Liverpool shows their hand or moves on entirely. Here's what I think happens next. When Eddie and the squad return on Monday, we'll see the most important conversations of this entire transfer window. One-on-one meetings, honest discussions about the future, and hopefully some clarity for everyone involved, especially us fans, who've been on this emotional roller coaster for weeks. The next weekend is absolutely crucial. If Liverpool doesn't make a formal move soon, this entire saga becomes noise without substance. And at some point, Newcastle has to dig their heels in and say enough is enough. What's your deadline for this situation? When should the club just shut down all speculation? Your thoughts could shape how we all view this moving forward. Look, I understand the frustration. Seeing Isak training alone in Spain while Liverpool links continue doesn't feel good. But context matters, professional relationships matter, and sometimes what looks like the worst possible optics actually makes perfect sense when you dig deeper. This isn't a black and white situation, no pun intended. There's still so much that can happen between now and the transfer window closing, but one thing I'm certain of, Newcastle won't make this decision on deadline day. They can't afford to scramble for a replacement at the last minute. So there you have it, Toon Army, the real story behind Alexander Isak training in Spain. Not the narrative you'll see everywhere else, but the context that actually matters for understanding where we go from here. Smash that like button if this breakdown helped you see the situation differently, and hit subscribe to never miss the inside scoop on everything Newcastle United. What's your prediction for how this ends? Team Isak stays or team inevitable departure? Let me know in the comments below. I'll read every single one. Until next time, stay proud, stay loud, and always keep the faith. Away the lads.